If you read this, you'll find no less than a dozen other stories that were pitched and passed on that were much better than Halloween, quite frankly, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. I'm at a loss for words, and that doesn't happen very often. For any of you who followed my YouTube channel for quite a while, you know that I long form can fucking talk. It's not always the most interesting, but I can talk nonetheless. So it's very interesting that the finale to my favorite franchise in all of horror leaves me dumbfounded and, quite frankly, speechless. Very hard to bring myself to do this review. I should probably wait and marinate on it, but I can't. I just can't do it. I've read fan fiction. I've read scripts that were pitched and passed on. I've read about the Quentin Tarantino script, right? Not script, but pitch, where homeless Michael Myers. I've read Taking Shape and Taking Shape 2. Taking Shape 2 by Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins is a must-have for any Halloween franchise fan. If you read this, you'll find no less than a dozen other stories that were pitched and passed on that were much better than Halloween, quite frankly, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. That's what, and I'm not getting paid for this, and I know Dustin McNeil liked this movie, so good kudos to you, my friend. Everyone should go pick this up. It's on Amazon, Kindle. Stepping back a minute, I understand what Halloween Ends was trying to accomplish. I really do. I just think they missed the mark. The thing I just keep coming back to is they've passed on numerous ideas. John Carpenter divorced himself from the entire franchise for 20 years, for 2 decades, and wouldn't come back and thought all the other movies were trash. Halloween 4 was trash? Halloween 4 is light years better than Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. This sequel trilogy is the Star Wars sequel trilogy of horror to me. It really is, and I hate to say that because I really wanted to love Halloween 2018. I really did, and I did like a lot of parts of Halloween Kills much better, and I really liked the way that they set up Michael Myers and the mythos and the evil. And then it just felt like they kind of followed up on that, but it was really underwhelming. I refuse to believe that this is a legitimate sequel and that the events happened in the universe of Michael Myers. I believe that this is Laurie's dying morphine dream. Honestly, that's what I think. I think it's Laurie at the end of Halloween Kills. She's on a morphine drip at the hospital. I took a lot of heat personally when I discussed on Break the Apocalypse podcast with John and Shaheen that I actually enjoyed Halloween Kills to some extent. And I had a feeling that they were setting up Michael Myers much the same way that Halloween 4, the Dennis Etchison script that John Carpenter commissioned, set up the evil of Michael Myers as a specter, as this force of evil. And unfortunately, they went a weird direction with it in this movie. So they, as I mentioned, they did kind of follow up on it, but it was really disappointing. They tried to do some really cool stuff. I want to throw a couple positives out there. The movie looked great. And as I have predicted with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, the best part of this movie was going to be the music. And thanks to John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies, that was pretty much true. But sadly, that was the best part of this movie. I found the characters that were supposed to be important annoying. In fact, by the time the end came around, I just was ready for Laurie Strode to die already. And I just wanted to get past it, you know? I think that's where I'm at with this, is they keep drawing things out, and I'm just done with Laurie Strode. I'm really done with Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, I mentioned something on the last video I did about the Halloween franchise, about Jamie Lee Curtis, that I took out because I don't like to rag on people and take shots or anything like this. But I think the Halloween franchise historically, having seen this come through from beginning to end, ends, I think Halloween has two huge problems, and I'll come back to Laurie Strode in a minute. One is it's the WWE of horror movies, of franchises. And I'm not knocking them for being the most popular, but what I mean is they're always trying to pretend they're above the genre. Let's go back. Halloween came out. It was more of a Hitchcocky 70s horror movie, and then Friday the 13th, and they kicked it into the slasher, splatter movie type of genre. So they took it in a different direction and built upon that and made it more intense. So then Halloween 2 came out, and Carpenter didn't even want to do it. And he thought Halloween 2 was trash. They tried to do Halloween 3, and as much as I like it, and I think it's one of the best sequels, it was really tame. I almost said lame, but really tame compared to other movies that were coming out at that time. I mean, imagine Hostel comes out in like 2002, and then you try to do a remake of The Birds. That's what Halloween 3 was like. It was almost like it was almost like a port, what do the gamers call it? It was almost like a ROM hack of Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the middle of Jason and all of these other I mean, God, look at some of the kills and the mayhem of movies, the knockoff movies like The Prowler and the Burning. Brutal kills, and then it's like, oh hey, we're gonna cut away when the drill goes into the ear. But how that franchise always has to pretend it's above the genre. Whereas A24 is making tremendous movies right now, in genre and out of genre, but making tremendous films. The term elevated horror, or as we coined it, I believe maybe Shaheen or John came up with this, hipster horror on Break the Apocalypse before the other term became popular. But these hipster horror movies, which not only are they gory or violent or really peel back the onion and show the dark parts of society that most people want to ignore, but they're also doing it in stunning artistry, great cinematography, great photography. I mean, everyography. they're just amazing. They look great. Pearl. I enjoyed Pearl more than watching Halloween Ends. I thought Pearl was awesome. I thought Terrifier was amazing compared to Halloween Ends. In fact, I'll say this. I did a Terrifier 2 review recently. Go check it out. And I think Halloween Ends missed on almost every one of the marks that Terrifier 2 nailed. And I think that'll wrap up that point of Halloween tries to be above the genre, where Terrifier 2 leaned into it. Terrifier 2 leaned into like a dumb kid sticking a fork in an outlet and went, you know what? We're horror. And they shocked the fuck out of everybody. People were puking in their popcorn, passing out, and it was so successful and got so much buzz, guess what happened? An indie flick with a very small budget. It was crowdsourced and had a lot of what they call cult support. This little engine that could got extended for another weekend, and more theaters started picking it up. They leaned into it, they knew what they were, and they took it in the next direction. And as I said on the Terrifier 2 review, it was like if you took a slasher and brought it into the modern era and updated it for modern times and modern audiences. Whereas I feel like Halloween Ends really missed the mark on that. And it's because they try to, I think, pretend they're above the genre. Jamie Lee Curtis, let me get back to her. Back in the mid to late 90s, she was destined for Disney Channel. Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan? She was doing movies like that. She was at that stage in her career where she was no longer a leading lady. And along comes the 20th anniversary of Halloween. And Halloween and other horror movies launched her career. And she waved bye-bye to horror long ago so that she could move on and be a mainstream movie star. And that's fine. But then guess what happened? She came back to it during the anniversary and when her career was on a bit of a downswing. And she was more than happy to be a part of it if everything before her was scrapped except for what she was in, right? That means no Jamie Lloyd, no Curse, no Cult, which I guess is fine. But all of that was wiped away. And then everyone pretended, oh wow, Jamie Lee Curtis, this is the greatest. She's back for this movie. And let's be honest, H2O, it's all right, but it wasn't fantastic. it was successful. Because of Jamie Lee Curtis, they got a bigger budget and they got more press. And then they went Rob Zombie. I think Rob Zombie proved that you don't need Jamie Lee Curtis to have a successful Halloween franchise. In fact, his version of Halloween was, I believe, the highest grossing Halloween film up until 2018 came out. But for some reason, after all this happened, they came back up on the 40th anniversary and wanted to bring back Laurie Strode, bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, and do another revamp. They won't revisit any anthology concept. They won't move in a new direction. They shot down a bunch of scripts about, like, there was a Michael Myers concept where he was on death row, and this prison massacre happens when he's supposed to be executed. They passed up on that. They passed up on an alternate sequel to, I believe, Halloween or Halloween 2 set in the 80s or the 90s and took it in a different direction. They passed up on that. To rehash, and that's what I believe Halloween 2018 was. That's why I mentioned before that this is the Star Wars sequel situation all over again, where they said it was Halloween 2018, they said it was a sequel, but it was really a requel. It was really a reboot and a remake. And I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, who's this big movie star, because, again, it fetches more money, it fetches more attention, as opposed to just taking these characters and going in a new direction without that. And I think you could easily do that with a number of other concepts. So I just think the two things, one, pretending they're above the genre, and you get that feeling when I think Jamie Lee Curtis does these interviews. I don't think she likes these movies, and I don't mean horror movies, I think Halloween. I think she resents them. I think she does them because she feels like she has to. And much like a lot of her public appearances when she says things, comes off as very, and I guess, yes, she's a movie star, but full of herself. And it just seems odd. Look, I'm never gonna have a job in Hollywood, so I don't really give a fuck. But there's something about that. And yes, thankfully she's coming back and still associating, so you still have these characters. But after this last one, if I'd have known this is where it was going when she came back for Halloween 2018, I'd have said no thanks. To be honest, 100% honest. To sum up my Halloween Kills review, go see and support independent horror. That's what I have to say. Because honestly, I'm ready for, I could go my whole life without seeing another Laurie Strode. I could go my whole life without seeing another Jamie Lee Curtis horror movie. I really could. They really could have done some interesting things with this franchise, and I don't mean to sound like the disappointed kid on Christmas who still got some cool shit, but it wasn't the shit that he wanted, because that's not the case at all. There were some good things about this that I can't get into because this is a spoiler-free review, but my overall feeling is just, let's go make the next Halloween. Like, go support Terrifier 2. Like, go support, what is it, the Outwater? Outwater's coming out soon? I'm rocking. Like, this is, I'm anxious over this movie. I'm gonna go back and watch it again like I did Kills, but like, they could have done so many, they could have done this same movie and this same concept in a number of different ways that would have been much more effective and palatable. It doesn't feel like a Halloween movie to me. It really didn't. Maybe I'll do a spoiler review. I just really, like I said, it was hard enough to even sit down and do this, but I felt compelled to. I need a shower. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but like yeah. Very underwhelming, very disappointing. You know when you're a kid or if you're a parent, you probably feel this way, where like your kid does something and it doesn't make you angry. And you're like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And that feels so much worse for everybody around. I'm so glad that I stayed home and watched it on my basement projector as opposed to going to the movies, because if I had lugged all my gear along, I probably would have been really pissed to have to do this review, because this is really, really just dumb. Just dumb. See you guys next time.